All right, we're going to hop right into it. Jack Goose Givens, the 1974 Kentucky Mr. Basketball, joining
Yep.
us. And Gary Ball. Gary,
Yep.
can
Trying
you
to
hear me
get a.
good?
Yeah. How you doing? How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great.
Thanks for
Thanks.
joining us on our podcast.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Uh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
You gonna give your usual little great introduction for Jack there?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, Jack was a 1974 Parade All American. Also was Kentucky Mr. Basketball. He went to Bryan Station High School. There you see the logo there with Bryan Station right next to his name.
Yep.
I thought that'd be pretty cool tonight, just to kind of throw it back a little bit.
Yep.
But
Thanks a lot for explaining that BS. I thought you were sending me a message. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
that,
they
man.
yeah they need to work on that logo, don't they? They need to work on that logo a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man,
thanks. Listen, back in the day, I heard that a whole lot when we showed up in gyms around the state.
yes
Yeah.
sir. So Jack, you were a consensus second team All American 1978, NCAA champion in 1978 with the
Mhm.
Kentucky Wildcats. Final Four most outstanding player in 78. 78 was really just a huge year for you.
Yeah.
Well, certainly was a good year, fun year as far as basketball goes. Although it wasn't 100% smooth, but it was a good year, no question about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody reflects back, and I know Gary will be talking about this a little bit, but the game against Duke where you scored 41 points in that championship game, that was just an outstanding game for you.
Yeah.
it. It was good for the entire team, but certainly my final game at the University of Kentucky, senior that year, and that was going to be it. I couldn't have dreamed up a better way to go out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was William. You got something else?
Well, I was just
Are
going to
you-
say we should probably get right into it. Although we should mention that Jack was also a NBA draft pick, number 16 to the Atlanta Hawks, and
Hmm.
that was pretty big right there as well. And then after basketball, it looks like you went on to have a great broadcasting career there, Jack, and you still do some appearances even still today.
Yeah, yeah, I was very blessed, no question about that. I mean, I've had in my mind, a great career, great as far as satisfying, and I think back over it, and I don't know that there's anything I would change about my career. And anytime you can do something for as long as I did, and not have any regrets, wouldn't want to change anything except one thing, maybe winning a state championship because the two times we went there, we came up a little bit short. But yeah, I was very blessed. Had a great career. Basketball was great. Broadcasting has been a great second career, and yeah, I even make a few appearances nowadays. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
we certainly appreciate you sharing some time with us tonight.
Yeah. And Jack, who shaped you when you were a young kid? Who shaped Jack Givens into that great man that he became? Because I had you in a class at University of Kentucky, and you were undoubtedly one of the nicest guys that you were a basketball star. You were a couple years ahead of me. I was a sophomore, but we both majored in communications at UK. I don't know if you remember this or not,
We
but
did.
we
Yeah. Oh yeah.
we had a class together there, and I think we worked on a couple projects together. But you were undoubtedly one of the nicest guys that I ever met. Who shaped you to be that man that you are?
Well, I give most of the credit to my mom. She was kind of the leader of our household. I was one of 10 kids, and my dad wasn't around that much. So I give my mother, my grandmother, who played a real big role in helping me as I was growing up to form me to be. who I am even today. Matter of fact, I was over visiting with her this afternoon, so she's still a very big part of my life. But my high school coach, also Bob Barlow, at Bryan
Yeah.
Station, was very important as well because
Yeah.
he kind of cared about not just me but all of the players in a way that was. I told him, he passed away here recently, but I used to tell him uh, he was different from every other coach I had in that he got his points across without using profanity, without necessarily raising his voice all that much, and he still got us to achieve as well as we could. So I give them credit for helping me to form into the person I am today.
Yeah. And as Williams said, in 1978, you were the SEC Male Athlete of the Year, and that blows your mind when you think about all those great football players in the SEC. That not that you were a great athlete. I mean, you won the national championship, but you were the Male Athlete of the Year. That's quite remarkable.
It really is. I mean, some pretty good basketball players in the SEC about at that time as well. So um, obviously, SEC football has always been strong. Um, so I was very, very fortunate to win that. I mean, obviously, it helps winning a national championship and going out the way we went out. Um,
Yeah.
the voting comes at that time of the year, so I'm sure basketball and the fact that that was recent and in everybody's mind had something to do with that as well. I tell you, I had a real good career at the University of Kentucky. I'm very proud of what I did there. When I left, I was a number two scorer in the history of Kentucky basketball, and you
Yeah.
think about all the great, great, great players we've had here, and all the guys who could shoot the rock and put points on the board. To be there right behind Dan Issel was really, really very special as well. But I'll take my career anytime. Very, very pleased with what we were able to accomplish while I was there.
Jack, if we
Yeah.
play some highlights of that championship game, would you be able to see it on your end? You think?
Well, you play it, and I'll see if I can. I'll let you know.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
just want to kind of comment on some of them as it happens, it
Yeah.
looks like we've got some highlights of that game.
Put your broadcasting hat on, Jack. There you are at the
Well,
free throw line. Nothing
that
like that.
yeah, I think this stretch of the game was late in the first half, and although I didn't know it at the time, I've since watched the game over, um, and I think I scored the last 15 or I don't know 17 straight points in that first half. I know up
Yeah.
until that time I had really struggled a lot, hadn't shot the ball very well before that last stretch. And you watch that Duke is playing a zone, a 2-3 zone, and a lot of that area in the 15, 14-foot range was left wide open. They didn't make any adjustments, so a lot of our our zone offenses were designed to kind of take advantage of the middle of the court, and it just so happened that that's where most of my shots came from. So we just kept running the plays. But yeah, this is really late in the first half. I got going, and they kept getting me the ball. We had a great floor general in Cal Macy. Of course, we had big guys. Rick Roby and Mike Phillips were there. Um, James Lee was inside, and he was pretty strong. So that middle of that zone was open and stayed open the entire game. I thought for sure
Yeah.
they'd go in at halftime and make some adjustments, but they didn't, and I'm very, very happy that they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
That certainly led to your game. I remember the one shot, Jack, and you probably remember this like it was yesterday. The one you banked in from the side. I wanted did you call bank on that?
I call luck on that. Does that count?
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah,
It
no,
all
no.
counts.
I mean, it was. I mean, it was just one of those games. I mean, I was shooting.
Yeah.
I shot it from the corner, and I was almost dead even with the backboard.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was a left-hand shooter, and I shot it from that corner, and it just kind of glazed off the side of the backboard. Uh,
There it
that
is.
kind
That
of
was it.
yeah, that was it. That kind of hit
Yeah.
the side of the backboard from deep in the corner, and it sounded and dropped. But it was just that kind of night. Sometimes you have it going like that, and you got to keep shooting because
Yeah.
they're all going in. So why not?
Yeah. So your professional career after of course the national championship with the University of Kentucky in '78, your professional career, you were drafted by the Atlanta Hawks as we mentioned earlier, the 16th overall pick. You ended up playing for them for it looks like 156
Yes,
games,
yeah.
averaging just under 7 points a game. Uh, but then you had some worldwide experience as well. So you played in Italy, Belgium, and Japan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my NBA career in Atlanta, I got to admit, was not the best. I don't know. Sometimes a program like Kentucky, the coaches we have, and so much of Kentucky basketball is team basketball.
Yep.
If you get the ball and if someone's open, it's drilled into you that you have to get the ball to the open man. I mean, that's just the way we played. We shared the basketball. We had a lot of guys who could score. Uh, in the NBA, you have to be a little bit selfish, and sometimes a lot selfish, in order, I think, to be successful. Because if you give the ball up, you're not going to get it back. And I just couldn't change my way of thinking. I couldn't look at a guy wide open under the basket or wide open in the corner and think, "Hey, I'm wide open too. I'm going to shoot the ball." It was just something I didn't adjust to, but I still am very happy for that opportunity. And then, yeah, I traveled around the world. It's a way to on somebody else's nickel, playing all those spots. I didn't stay. I stayed in Japan the longest and played probably 3, 4 years over there.
Hmm.
And we won a national championship in Japan as well. And I was the national player of the year in Japan, and a very successful career over there as well. So I
Yeah.
was really, really pleased with those experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are some of
And
the?
man,
Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
no, you got it, William. You got it. Go ahead.
I was just curious. Who are some of the who are some of your favorite players to go up against? When you played in those big games like that.
Well, when you're going against some of those guys, uh, you you don't want to think that they're some of the greatest players, because if you go into it thinking like that, you're not going to play very well. But I had opportunity to play against guys like Dr. J. Played against Julius. Had to guard him, which was not very much fun. Had to guard guys like Larry Bird. I guarded Magic Johnson. Uh, I played against a bunch of them. The toughest guy probably for me to guard um, was a guy by the name of Bernard King. I know you'll remember him,
Yeah.
Gary. He was uh,
Oh
he
yeah.
was at
Oh yeah.
Tennessee, and William, you guys will remember Bernard. But I had to play against him in college while he was at Tennessee, and then in the NBA as well. And I, I still haven't figured out how to stop the guy from scoring. I mean, he was a machine. He scored almost at will, not just against me, but against about everybody he played against. He was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He
but
was part of
I
that.
had a chance to play against a lot of great players.
He was part of that Bernie and Ernie
Well,
show there in Tennessee, wasn't he?
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And Ernie Grunfeld was good in his own right. I mean, he was a scorer. He was crafty. He was a both of them New York City guys, and played New York City style basketball. It was rough. It
Yeah.
was tough. It was sometimes dirty. But that's just the way they played it, and we had to adjust and play the same way they played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What what are
They,
some of the things
oh,
that you're What are some of the things that you're doing nowadays with what you got going on?
Well, I live in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Okay.
I work vice president of business development for a vertical construction company. We build infrastructure for uh, uh, utilities companies, folks like Louisville Gas and Electric, uh, uh, utilities. We work for Duke Energy. We do work for a number of co-ops throughout the state. We also work for cell phone and cable TV networks. We build high-speed fiber networks throughout the state and in
Nice.
other states as well. We probably work in right now. We're working in 7, 8 states, but we do construction outside plant construction, building. Communications and electric energy networks. Yeah.
That's right down
So I'm
my
vice
alley.
president of business development there. I more than anything right now, I'm enjoy being a grandfather. I watch my 9-year-old uh, baseball player. He's amazing, just as quick as anything.
Jack's signal, I think, dropped
Yeah,
on us there, Gary.
internet. Yeah, he was telling us about his
And
There he
nine
both.
is.
year old.
There he is.
I'm sorry.
Your signal
Um,
dropped on us there for a second.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, in addition to working for bowling group, uh, I also am enjoying being a grandfather. I
Yeah,
have an opportunity to watch my grandson play basketball and baseball. He's right now in the middle of baseball season. He's a good little second baseman. Uh, uh, just as quick as anything, getting from home plate to first base. So he's a tough out. So I've enjoyed watching him. I got a chance to coach him in basketball as well. I coached both. I don't now, but I did when he from the time he was 5 to the time he was about 7. So
yeah,
3 summers I got to coach him. And I tell people, when I was coaching him when he was 5 and 6, it was more like babysitting. It was trying to keep him from chasing butterflies and digging and all of that kind of stuff. But he's a good little player. And my granddaughter, she's almost 11. I got her started in golf, and she's taking golf lessons, and she and I'll go play together and that kind of stuff. So I'm really enjoying being a grandfather right now, for sure. It's a lot of
yeah,
fun.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Jack, you played for Coach Barlow in high school there at Bryan Station. You had some really good teammates at Bryan Station. You were ranked number one most of the season, as you mentioned to us earlier,
Yeah.
but you got
Yeah.
upset in the tournament. And then you went on to Kentucky and played for a good friend of ours. Both you really like Coach Hall, and Coach Hall's been a good friend of mine for a long time. What do you think was the biggest difference between Coach Barlow and Coach Hall? I know Coach Hall was a disciplinarian too.
Yeah, yeah, he really was. I just mentioned Coach Barlow passed away a couple months ago. As a matter of fact, we just had his funeral this past Saturday, and I spoke at his funeral. It's pretty interesting because we both lived here in Georgetown, so I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him in the last 10 years or so of his life. He was 94 when he passed away. And I told him, I picked him up one day, and I called him up, said, Coach, you want to go to the state tournament with me? And he said, Jack, I haven't been to the state tournament in a long, long time. And I said, well, Coach, come on and go with me. So we did. We sat right behind the bench, and I heard one of the high school coaches using profanity towards some of his players. And I leaned over and I told him, I said, Coach, by the way, I said, you didn't do a very good job of preparing me for college basketball. And he looked at me with this hurt feeling on his face, man. And he said, what? I said, you just didn't do a good job. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, you never used a word of profanity against me. And when I got to college, I started hearing it, and I just wasn't prepared for it. And
Yeah.
we both got a big old laugh out of it. And he said, well, let me tell you something. He said, if that's the only way a coach can get a player to play, then he must not be a very good coach. So that's
Yeah.
the kind of lessons I learned from Coach Barlow. Now, the difference is that, uh, when you get to college and everything is on a bigger stage, a much grander stage, I think the attitude of the coach gets bigger and gets more intense, and it gets more day to day that you have to max out every minute, and that's the way Coach Hall was. But I learned a lot from both of them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach,
Who are some of the?
go ahead,
Go
Gary.
ahead, William.
No, no, you go ahead. I was just going to say, Coach Hall. We run into him even still today at the Sweet 16 every year, just like clockwork.
Yep. Yep. Him and
He
Denny
loves he
Crum.
loves going to Sweet 16, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Dan Issel, when Dan was on with us a while back, well, you remember he brought up that story about how his teammates needed to get reacquainted with him. Did you ever have one of those moments, Jack, where your team needed to get he said, Dan Issel said, Adolph Rupp said, we need a timeout, fellas. And he called them all over there and he said, come over here, fellas. He said, this man here, number 44, he's Dan Issel, and I would suggest that you pass him the basketball because he'll be the all-time leading scorer here at the University of Kentucky. And he said, Dan went back in the game. He said the first 5 minutes he didn't touch the ball. He said after that timeout, he got every pass and every. So did you have one of those kind of moments at Kentucky?
I don't know that Coach All ever made it that obvious that he wanted me to have the ball, but but he had a way of getting his point across. I mean, the joke with Coach Hall was, uh, uh, they always would say that some of his players. Uh, couldn't be a guard at a bank because Coach Hall kept telling them not to shoot. So if somebody came in to rob the bank, they couldn't be a bank guard because they couldn't shoot.
Shoot, yeah.
But we had so many guys who could score the basketball. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, we had Rick and Mike on the inside, both 7-footers. We had Truman Clater my senior year who could flat shoot the basketball. Of course, Macy could shoot it. Uh,
Yeah.
Jay Shadler coming off the bench. I mean, we had so many guys who could score. I was at times very fortunate to even get a shot with all those guys on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I read you were part of the Orlando Comets there for a while? Did you spend some time with
Well,
them?
I coached the Orlando Comets. We had an AAU organization that my daughter and a number of other great young players played on down in Orlando. We won the AAU national championship as 16-year-olds. But it's certainly one of those times when you hear that players are what make coaches good. I mean, we had some great players from that championship team. Um, I probably had 8 of my 11 girls. 8 of them went to major college basketball. Uh, Crystal Thomas, who was 6'4", she just finished playing in the WNBA just a couple of seasons ago. So I had she went to Duke. I had a couple players went to Wake Forest. I had one player went to Clemson. I have one player went to Florida State. My daughter, who was on that team, got a scholarship at Florida Atlantic University. Um, I had another one to go FIU, no, go to University of Miami.
Hmm.
I mean, we had some players.
Yeah.
I just had the pleasure of trying to get them to play together, get them to play hard, and get them to realize how good they could be. So we came in second one year in the AAU Nationals, and just had a great time playing basketball as a kid. So that was the name of our organization. We probably had 7 teams at the max, different age groups playing basketball. Yeah.
Okay. Gary?
Jack, do you think the when you look at the teams, I mean, Kentucky had a good run there in the '90s. '96, they won the championship. '97, they probably would have won the championship if Derek Anderson doesn't, mess up his knee. They probably win that championship.
Right.
Then they won again in '98. You guys won in
Hmm.
'78, and since then, what they won in 2012, right, with Anthony Davis.
Right.
Is
Right.
that right?
Right.
Right. So when you look at the Kentucky as a whole, the whole gamut of Kentucky basketball, how many more championships do you think that Kentucky might have if they didn't have all these one and dones?
Oh my goodness. It's hard.
At least,
That's a hard call to
at least,
make because yeah, you think about it. I mean, even with the one and dones, you think about how close they've come over
yeah,
the last few years, and I'm still a firm believer that that time of the year, experience matters and matters a lot. As far as guys, if they, I mean, just think about some of the teams we could have had. Although we may not have had all that many players if they were staying for 4 years like they did when I was there. But man, it's a different game now. But I tell you, Calipari does a great job of getting players, and
yeah,
people always come to me griping, do you about the one and done, and I just hate the one and done, and I was like, I don't like it either. But I tell you one thing, I'd rather be playing with Anthony Davis for 1 year than trying to play against Anthony Davis for 1 year and all those other one and dones. I'm
yeah,
glad they're here for the time we have them. That's for sure.
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you do you ever get to talk with any of the guys coming out of Bryan Station, like a Shelvin Mack or somebody like that, or a Boss Boone, Eric Boss Boone? You ever talk to those guys at all?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Mac was. I've known his family. I mean, he has older siblings who I grew up with a little bit. So he's younger than me, but still love going to high school basketball games, and I'm here at Scott County, and they have good basketball here to some
Yes.
extent, great basketball here at Scott County, and Scott County plays all the Lexington schools, so. I get to see Bryan Station, Henry Clay, Lafayette. I get to see all those teams play at
Yeah,
some point during the course of the year. So, and Lexington Catholic is good. So I go to their Christmas tournament or catch them if they come here to play Scott County, or I go to Lexington Catholic and watch them play. I mean, I got to tell you, high school basketball, in my mind, is nowhere near what it was when I played high school basketball. It might be uh, it might be my ego speaking when it comes to comparing the game now as opposed to then when it comes to high school basketball, when it comes to fan participation, people coming to the games, other students coming to the game. I mean, I really miss those full gyms. I mean, we filled up when James Lee and I played against each other in high school. James was at Henry Clay. Lafayette was good. Tate's Creek was good. We couldn't play in our high school gyms. We had to play in Memorial Coliseum because we couldn't get everybody in the gym. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I wish we could figure out a way to get back to that and get back to where high school sports was the key event going on in whatever city you lived in for that night.
Yeah. I think
yeah,
I mean, probably the biggest difference I would imagine is, when you were playing high school ball, you didn't really have the internet. You didn't have the internet, and then the other thing is video games. They were, you either played
Yeah.
them, on the big machines that you put the quarters in, but most likely you probably didn't have them at home. I would imagine, unless you had like the old Atari or something.
Oh man, no, I didn't even have a TV when I was really young. So of course I wouldn't have that kind of stuff. Growing up with 10 kids, man, I was looking for my next meal, man, and that's all I wanted to make sure I had. But yeah, kids have so many different options nowadays that we didn't have. I mean, I hate to sound like an old man talking about what it used to be, but I mean, the only thing we could do is go to the park and play ball. I mean, that was
Right.
it.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
didn't have malls to go to. We didn't have video games. We didn't have all of that stuff. Uh,
yeah,
I'm not saying that it was the best thing in the world, but at least we were outside doing stuff, which was really good.
Yeah.
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 That's true, Jack. When I was a kid, we lived at Valley Park. Joe Cali, Jeff Fortner, and all those guys,
Yeah,
and
man.
we
Uh-huh.
played year round down there. It was unbelievable, and I'm sure you did the same thing at the parks too.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it wasn't something we were told to do. I mean, it was just something we did because that's pretty much all we had to do.
Yeah,
Those are still great memories, no question about that.
Now, when you were
right.
in high school, did they give you the opportunity to play at, say, Memorial Coliseum? For some of those high school games, or
Yeah,
because I've
that's
always
what he
heard
was
Oh
talking.
yeah,
stories.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
And
always heard stories.
yeah, yeah,
that's the big Coliseum. That's when the Coliseum seated 11, 12,000, isn't it, Jack? Not the 7 or 8 it seats
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because when I first started high school, my sophomore year, I went to Henry Clay High School because that's the district I grew up in, and I was living in at that time. So James Lee and I, for the first few days of tryouts, I think 3 days of tryouts, James Lee and I were on the same team. And then
Yeah,
Wednesday, my family moved. So Thursday of that tryout week, I started at Bryan Station. So I tried out the last 2 days at Bryan Station. So I made two teams that week during
right.
tryouts. But yeah, we, like I say, Lexington basketball was, whew, it was unbelievable how good it was. And
Yeah.
um, we played, particularly my senior year, we played every game, I think, at Memorial Coliseum. We might have played early on against Henry Clay at Bryan Station High School, but because the fire marshal had to turn like 6,000 people away that night,
Yeah,
they just wouldn't let anybody else in. And if you weren't in the gym by, say, 5:30 to 6, you wouldn't get in there for a 7:30 game, that's for sure. So they started turning so many people away at all the high school gyms. They just opened up Memorial Coliseum and gave us a chance and let us play there. And we'd have a
yeah.
doubleheader. We might play Tate's Creek, and Henry Clay would play Lafayette. I mean, we would have those kind of games, and it was, man, oh, man, that was some great basketball.
Hmm.
Yeah. Can you
Um,
imagine if you would have been James Lee's teammate for all 3 years? Of course, you moved over to Bryan Station and made their basketball team, but you and James Lee would have been teammates not only at Kentucky, you'd have been teammates in high school, but you were teammates, I believe, with Ted Hunley, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ted Hunley and I played together at Bryan Station.
Yeah,
Ted went on to play at Moorhead and became a pretty good player himself,
yeah.
and a very successful career at Moorhead. And of course, Ted's sons both played basketball, and one was Kentucky
Hmm.
Mr. Basketball, and on played at Vandy.
Hmm. Yep. Scott was an outstanding player.
so
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he really was.
here's some interesting high school numbers I probably should throw out there. Obviously you were given letters 4 times in varsity basketball: 74, 75, 77, 78 in that span. But you scored 2,038 points in 123 games. You averaged 16.6 points per game for the defenders of Bryan Station. That's just amazing.
yeah. And
Well,
Jack, there was no three, no three pointer.
No three pointers.
There was
Yep.
no three pointer
no,
back then, right?
no, No, there wasn't. And the thing at Bryan Station, uh, uh, we were. And once again, this is not. I'm not being. I'm just saying we were good, and we had guys like Norman Jackson, Anthony Jackson, Buck Clay, Cooley Clay, Ted Hunley. We had some really really good teams. The starters on that team would probably play no more than 16 minutes a night. I mean, we would play the first quarter, and we would have such a big lead on a lot of teams we played. We wouldn't play in the second quarter, and then Coach Barlow would let us start the second half, and we'd play 5 or 6 minutes, and we wouldn't play any more the rest of the game. So those kind of things figured into my all of our numbers, really, not just me, but our numbers. But we probably had 11 players my sophomore, junior, and senior year who could flat out play. So I was fortunate to play on some real good teams.
And
That's
you
a
mentioned Anthony Jackson. Didn't he end up playing at Florida State, I believe, Anthony Jackson?
Yeah, he went on and played at Florida State, and
Yeah.
of course, my senior year when we played our first game in the NCAA tournament down in Knoxville, we played against Florida State, and AJ was on that team, and
Yeah.
they almost beat us that game. The year we won the championship, they almost beat us. Coach Hall. He benched me. He benched Truman Clater. He benched Mike Phillips, I think, starting the second half, and he started Levon Williams. No, he started Fred Cowan. He started uh, Dwayne Casey, and we almost lost that game. And James Lee
Yeah.
started in my place. So, but
Yeah.
we came back and won it. But that was a good Florida State team, and Anthony Jackson was a tremendous player.
Yeah. Yeah.
so I,
He was.
we got some people tuning in on Facebook here tonight. Coach Tim Glenn actually watching. You mentioned Scott County earlier, and he was just talking about Jack Gibbons, James Lee on the same team. Can you imagine that? And
Oh.
yeah, Kevin Dennis watching out there as well. He's a big fan of the Goose, he says, and he says great show tonight.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Thank you very much, guys.
and like I said early on, when you first joined us, Jack, is I remember back in our when we were in college together, and just the guy that you were. I mean, in class, you were so into, okay, I got to do well in this class, and you did well academically because I think we both got A's in that class, because it was a communications class, and we needed to get an A because that
Yep.
was our major. But I remember you in that class, you were very in tune to what the professor was saying, what he was telling us, and you were a good student to be such a good athlete. You were a very good student.
Well, I enjoyed college, man. I enjoyed going to class. I, 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 I certainly didn't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going out in the country and run. If you missed a class, that's what happened. So I didn't need
Yeah.
that kind of motivation to get me to go to class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. I did like going to class. I enjoyed it. I made it a point to meet all of my professors and made
Yep.
sure they understood that I was on the team, and there were times when we're going to be traveling, and times
Right.
when I was going to be have to miss, and just understand that I'm not skipping class. I want to be here, and all the
Yeah.
professors really appreciate that, and showed a lot of kindness when
Yeah.
I had to miss. And I had 8 o'clock classes. I'm probably the only senior who used to have 8 o'clock classes, but I had to get up and I had to go to class. I had to be able to get finished by noon or so I can eat lunch and then get over to practice and that kind of stuff. So uh, college wasn't easy when you sometimes get back in town at 3 o'clock in the morning. You have to get up and go to an 8 o'clock class. But I enjoyed doing it. I mean, I enjoyed college and I enjoyed meeting new people and spending time with people outside of basketball. Believe me, when
Mhm.
you go against guys every day in practice and you take beatings that we gave each other in practice every day, physical abuse, it was called. Uh, you had to get away from those. You had to get away
Yeah.
from those guys to keep from killing each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jack, what would your best advice to some of the younger generation that might be watching tonight that are aspiring to be the next Jack Goose Givens, not only at the high school level, but have a great career like you did?
Well, I would tell kids a few things. Number one, I would tell them to dream and dream big. It's not going to happen if you don't put it in your mind and understand you have to focus on that in order to make it happen. I would tell them to put in as much time in the classroom as you put in on the court. Uh, because if I'm coaching a team, I don't want to coach a dumb player. I don't want a dumb player, and you can't be smart in basketball if you're not smart in the classroom. Uh, so, uh, so I would tell them to be smart in the classroom as well as being basketball floor. But the thing I think I would tell them more than anything is that if you're going to be one of the best, if you're going to be good, uh, and really you can't just be good and make it to the University of Kentucky. If you're going to be special, uh, every day you got to do something, and every minute you're doing something, you got to give it 100%. You cannot afford to take plays off. You got to max out on your ability every second you're out there. And it's even more important nowadays than it was when I was playing because I tell you, there are a lot of great basketball players out there. And if you take 3 or 4 plays off a game or 3 or 4 plays off a practice, uh, coaches are going to be watching and they're not going to take it. You might as well forget about it. So I would tell a guy, if you want to be the best, you got to max out every minute and be the best that you can be every time you step on the court.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
great advice. Great advice.
that is good
And
advice.
now that doesn't have, and that really doesn't have anything to do with talent. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
how great a basketball player you are.
Yeah,
I'm just saying you can't be great unless you're great every minute you're out on the floor. It just doesn't happen. You
yeah,
can't turn it on and off. It
yeah.
has to be
right.
every play.
You're talking about effort, aren't you, Jack? Effort.
Well, I'm talking about effort. Yes. I mean, you, and I watch high school basketball now, man, and I sit back sometime and I see some of these kids who have such great talent, uh,
Yeah,
just just amazing players. Uh, but man, there goes a stretch when I don't even know they're on the floor. And I'll tell
yeah,
you, and I told this kid this. There's a kid here a couple years ago. Uh, uh, great. I'm talking about super nice young man.
yeah,
He's at EKU now. He's at EKU now.
You
yeah,
just gave it
And
away. I think
I would,
everybody knows.
I know. Well, I don't mind saying it because the end of the story is great. So I
Okay.
don't mind
yeah,
telling you who it is. Uh,
yeah,
but I would watch him play sometime, and he was just, I mean, 6'7", had a body like I used to dream about having when I was young enough to have a body like that. I mean, he was
Charles Hurt.
just amazing. Charles Hurt. I'll tell
Yeah,
Charles all the time. Charles, I want to be like you when I grow up, man. And he was younger than me. Uh, but um,
yeah,
but I would watch him play, and there were times during the game when I just didn't know he was out there,
Yeah.
as good as he was.
I,
And I
I,
told
yeah,
him, I said, man, I said, you can't afford to take plays off. You got to
right.
do it every game and every minute.
yeah.
And now I
Yeah,
watch him over at EKU, man, and I watched him a couple of times this year. I went down there to watch him. And man, he plays hard. He's maxing out on effort. He probably
yeah,
would have been or could have been freshman of the year in the SEC with the way he played and the year EKU was having. I mean, I just loved what he turned into,
yeah,
and I was so proud of him for how he
yeah.
improved his game.
Yeah.
Didn't he get newcomer of the year in the OVC? I think.
Well, he probably did. I haven't heard that, but he had to be because he was just amazing how the step he took from high
Yeah,
school to college. Uh,
Yeah,
and
but
really, it was just amazing to see him transform into the player he became this year.
And he certainly got
but
a lot
but
of practice at EKU too. They
yeah,
all
Oh
those
yeah, oh
regional
yeah,
titles.
yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
But Jack,
He's awesome.
you said it best. You said it best early on about Michael Marino. There's not a better human being on the planet. Michael Marino, he's like you were as an athlete, just a better person. And even though he's a great player, Michael Marino is just a fabulous. I mean, William, you know that you met the
Yeah.
kid. He yes sir no. I mean, there's no better kid than Michael Marino. I wish him nothing but the best. I think he'll have a great career at Eastern. I really do.
Yep.
Oh, I do too. I went over and I spoke at the Scott County basketball camp a few years ago. He was a youngster at that time, and I got to meet him. I shook hands with him, and oh man, he was yes sir. He was no sir. He was
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
thank you sir. I mean, he was, and I saw him. Just here in Scott County a few weeks ago, we went to a little march they were having downtown at the courthouse here in Scott County on a Sunday afternoon. I took my wife and I went, and my daughter and her husband went. They live here also, and the grandkids. I just wanted them to go, and I wanted them to see what a peaceful demonstration was. You can say you can speak your mind. You can. So I took them there, and he was there at this march, and I went up to him and I said the same thing to him. Man, what a great year you had! I'm so
yeah.
proud of all of the things you were able to accomplish this year. And once again, thank you, sir. I really appreciate hearing that, Mr. Jack. And he's that kind of guy.
Hey,
Yeah, he is. You know, I'd be remiss, William and I, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this COVID thing going on with, and its effect on all the sports. The NBA is going to try to bring them all together in Orlando, your old stomping ground, and they're going to try to bring them in
Yeah.
and play. What do you think about all that and the broadcasting end of it, Jack? Since you're broadcaster as well.
Well, I'm very glad they're going to give it a shot. I hope that guys can stay safe and can stay healthy. Uh, it's going to happen somewhere where uh, somebody puts their foot in the water and tests to see what it's all about. I know
Hmm.
they're doing a lot of testing every day. I mean, they're taking all the precautions. Unfortunately, fans won't be able to attend, but I'm glad they can keep it in a controlled environment. Uh, I think we need something. Obviously, the fans need just something to occupy their
Yeah.
mind.
hmm
As far as broadcasting the games, I don't think the broadcasters are going to be allowed in there either. So you're going to have to
No, you're
be,
right.
yeah, you're going to have to be in the truck, or you're going to have to be
In the
on a
studio.
monitor somewhere trying to call the game
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
studio.
in the studio.
So that
Yeah,
so that's going to be totally different. I don't know how you can do that,
the,
yeah,
but I'm looking forward to it either way.
Jack,
yeah,
you'd be
yeah.
surprised, man. That you could like I'm in a studio right now, but I could have my camera. I can operate a camera. It could be in South Carolina or wherever, and be able to do it in real time just where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, that part of it I understand, and that's all good.
Yep.
But when I broadcast, I used to sometimes have to play off the crowd. I used to get involved in the motion of the game.
Yeah.
Uh, I understand
Yeah.
that, but that's going to be a little bit different, not being on site and
Yeah.
calling the games up close and personal, if you will.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Um, I know I was going to comment on was we had talked about Michael Marino there. Have you guys had a chance to see his little brother,
Um,
Malachi? Malachi is his little brother.
Malachi, how old is Malachi?
I want to say he's 13, but listen, he's taller than Michael is.
Get out
Yeah.
of here.
No.
Wow.
No, I don't know that I've seen him. I'm not 100% sure if he played ninth grade ball or whatever, I would go to some of those games. But I'm sure I've seen him around somewhere, but I didn't know it was his younger brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna see
Yeah.
if I'm gonna try to bring a picture in from him here, and
Okay,
I just wanna
You,
show you
you're
because
very
it.
talented, man.
I
I love
know.
when you can make stuff like that happen just by pushing a switch.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm gonna look for it here real quick because I tell you I gotta show everybody, and
Yeah,
it
he's
it
gonna be
is
something
amazing.
else.
Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, I have, yeah, I have seen this kid. Oh, of course, yeah,
Yeah,
That's his little
yeah.
yeah.
brother.
I
Well,
have
I don't know
seen
if he's
this kid.
little. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for pointing that out. I look forward to seeing him play
Yeah.
over the
He's
rest of his career.
gonna be playing at Scott County. I know Coach Glenn, who's actually watching right now, is super excited.
Who
Hey,
won
and
the Who won the 11th?
just let me say about Coach and the job he did this year with that Scott County team. I
Yeah.
mean, now I saw him play early in the year, Coach. I got to tell you, I saw him play early on, and I thought, oh no, man, this what a drop! This is going to be tough. And all of a sudden, I went back and I watched them play Henry Clay. I watched them play Bryan Station. They played Bryan Station, or Bryan Station played them here in Scott County to uh, a 1 or 2 point game, maybe a 3 point game. And I watched them play Great Crossing, and man, the improvement of that team between I would never have thought that team would have gotten out of the region and going to the state
Yeah.
tournament.
Yeah.
But man, I got to tell you, he did a great job coaching, taking over for a legend.
Yep.
I get that, but what a great job he did bringing that team around. I was
Yeah.
really happy to watch that team.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
great
Coach
season.
Glenn did. That was a miraculous, really, season winning the 11th region and to get into the state tournament. Because I mean, we had the draw show out at KYT about a month before the state tournament, and I don't think anybody picked Scott County to win the 11th. Everybody was saying Henry Clay's got Marquez,
Oh, it was
or
Henry Clay. Yeah, yeah.
or Lexington Catholic's got Johnson and Goldman and all these guys, and then then here comes Scott County snuck in the back door. I don't know if you can say the back door, but they won the thing. But Jack, what was your thoughts on Marquez? He's going up to Northern Kentucky University to play basketball. Marquez Warwick, who played at Henry Clay, he was a Mr. Basketball finalist.
Yeah. Oh man, I was really impressed with him. I loved watching him play. Now you're talking about a guy.
Yeah,
At least the games I saw, you're talking about a guy
yeah,
who plays hard and who tries to max out.
yeah,
That kid played hard, and
yeah.
I'm glad to see him go to NKU because I'm on the athletics board up in Northern Kentucky University, and I spend a lot of time up there, get to some of their games, so I'll be able to watch them play. So I'm glad he ended up there.
Yep.
Well, give William and I a call. We'll go up there with you and watch him play this winter. If with that COVID.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just
Absolutely.
hoping we'll be able to get into the games
Yeah,
here, it's one way or the other. That's my hope.
You
that's what
gotta.
we're hoping to.
Yeah. And of course, you can always watch it on PrepSpin. I heard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about it.
All right.
Oh, that's
Well,
awesome.
is there anything that we haven't covered with you or talked about with you that you'd like to? I mean, you mentioned the bowling, what you do there with your job with the bowling company, but I just think it's been a pleasure having you on. You were not only a true legend because you had 41 points in the national championship game, but you were just a better person because I knew you. I had you in class. I know. Yes, with me. You and I sit there. You were right behind me. Remember in class? You're sitting right behind
Oh,
me.
you're the
And
one. You're the one I was cheating off your paper, huh? Is that what you're saying?
no, that's not at all. You
No,
never.
no.
Don't get that
I'm
started,
just
Jack. You
kidding.
never cheated.
No,
You never cheated.
I'm just
I know.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
But
Like I say, I love school and had a great time going to classes.
I did too. I enjoyed school. I got real serious about it probably my sophomore, junior year. My freshman year, I just wanted to kind of, uh, find my way, Jack, so to speak. And then after that, I kind of got my wheels under me, and I settled in. I think I ended up making the dean's list my junior and senior year. So I really caught on at UK, and a lot of that was a credit to you because I saw how serious you took academics. And I said, well, Jack Evans is going to take it this serious. Maybe I should take it a little bit more serious.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, and I really did take it serious. I mean, I just like learning and was trying to be as good as I could be in the classroom, and it was tough at times. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
It was difficult. Man, you had to work, and especially when I started taking business classes because I kind of got a minored in business administration and accounting and all of those business classes, business uh,
Yeah.
development classes and accounting classes. Man, that was tough stuff, but
Yeah.
I made it through it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well,
I tell you, this has been a great show. Do you like beef jerky, Jack?
Oh man, heck yeah! I mean, I'm going to baseball games right now, man, and I'm sitting out in 90 degree weather trying to stay cool. And man, that beef jerky is good to chew on to keep your mouth watered, man.
And we got the best beef jerky on the planet, Mingy beef jerky. We're going to send you some for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate
there
that.
Are spots.
And of course that's what we buy. I was going to say it, but I thought, man, just think if they're sponsored by somebody else, and I say Mingy beef jerky is the best in the business, and you're sponsored by, so I just kept my mouth closed. I didn't say anything. So I'm glad you're following in the steps of Tom Leach, and you're on the bandwagon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mingy's the best on the planet.
And it's great stuff. Mingy beef jerky. Remember Coach Hall used to say all the time on his show, Jack, you got to try this stuff. Is what Coach Hall used to say. Remember that?
That's
Jack,
I would go into the, all right.
But
I was just going to say I'd go in the studio when Coach had his show, and we'd be sitting in there chewing on that during the commercial breaks, man.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Coach Hall had me on. Remember, he had me on Fridays talking about high school sports. On his show because Coach Hall loves high school sports. So I met you many a time on that. You one of the best guests we had on that show. You were super. And we appreciate you joining us on.
It was good. Hey, and by the way, real quick, I'll just say keep Coach Hall in your prayers, everybody. He went through a little bit of a rough time a couple of weeks ago. He's in a rehab facility here in Lexington now, so he's trying to get better. But keep Coach in your prayers, if you will.
We sure will, Jack. And we appreciate everything that you've done for the University of Kentucky as an ambassador for the University of Kentucky. William, there's not a better one than Jack. He was in class with me, so I know I'm not speaking ill. He is one of the best ambassadors we've ever had at the University of Kentucky.
Thanks a lot.
I could tell just by talking to you tonight, man, that you're an outstanding guy. Just awesome stuff.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank y'all for having me on tonight.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you, Jack. Thank you, Jack.
All right, good. Appreciate it.
William, when you think about UK legends, I mean, Jack is right up there. I mean, I know him and Dan Issel, the top two scorers at Kentucky. I think Kenny Walker's like third or fourth or something like that.
No.
When I think
Kenny actually passed me, so he's in second place now. Yeah, that's why I don't like him to this day.
And Jack, if nothing, you're honest. Man. I mean, you're honest. The guy said, no, Kenny passed me.
No,
he's so honest.
Kenny's my boy. He's a great guy.
We're talking with him. We're going to get him on the show down the road too. But we really enjoyed having you on, Jack. And we've had some great guests on this show. But you're right up there with the best of them.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you later.
See you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah,
Bye.
Jack Goose. Bye. Goose Givens.
All right.
He's a legend. William. A legend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was
What a
awesome. That
great.
was a great show.
I mean, I seriously, when I was in class, I'd be sitting there and I'd be sitting there and Jack, he was in class before I was. I mean, he was there ready to go, and then I walk in class. I was on time, but every once in a while I'd be late. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I look back and there's Jack Givens right there in my comp 300 class, junior level, and he was just he was just a joy to be around. I mean, we had some projects together we did in communications, and I think the professors just tolerated me. But man, Jack he was. I mean, we had this all American and all world player in class with us, and that was just that was a joy.
Yes,
That was
sir.
a joy.
All right. Well,
But anyway,
yeah, man, that was
I
a
know
great show. That was a great show,
we got
Gary.
some great guests lined up down the road, William. I know I'll be with you next Thursday, but in 2 weeks I'm out of town.
Yeah.
So I won't be with you that Thursday because Bridge and I make our annual Michigan trip. But I know I guess we can go ahead and announce that Dick Vitale's going to join us in a couple of weeks, huh?
That's right.
Dick Vitale.
That's big time. And
Yeah.
hey, and I should mention this out there too. And they're totally not a sponsor of ours yet, but maybe we could talk to them. But Top Seed Tennis is got Serena Williams is going to be playing. Did you see that?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Serena Williams. I love tennis.
Yeah.
And I've seen Serena play at the U.S. Open up in New York. So, and now she's going to play at Top Seed. Everybody be out there. I don't think they got enough seating out there, do they?
No, they're building a 5,000 seat stadium over there. Is what I've been hearing.
I guess they'll make everybody social distance with
That's the word
COVID.
anyway. That's coming. But yeah, this is certainly a big event to kickstart it.
Well, Jack, we appreciate Jack Givens. He was a great guest with us and did a great. I mean, I knew he would be good. I mean, we've had Anthony Munoz and all these guys who were very good, but Jack Givens, Dave Cowens, but it doesn't get much better than Jack Goose. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's just. I mean, he's a real guy. He's real.
Yeah.
So we appreciate.
He's back. We better get off here, man. We better get off here.
All right. Hey, thanks, William.
right.
See you next Thursday. Special guest next Thursday. It's not Dick Vitale next week. We'll have to have him on when I'm back from vacation, okay?
Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Dick Vitale show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
awesome,
thank you very
baby.
much, William. Yeah, awesome. That's right. Great job, William.
All right, see you, man.
See you.